Hello and welcome to the Musical Instrument Investigator. Today we're on the website of French auction house Aguttes, and we're going to have a look at their latest auction, which is bowed stringed instruments. So here we have instruments and bows of the quartet. So we have like I said, bowed stringed instruments, and we also have some bows. There's about 188 lots. Should be quite an interesting auction, certainly hopefully better than the latest Vichy one we saw. This is finishing on the 27th of November. It is the 8th today, so plenty of time to have a look at this. Those of you that watch the channel might remember actually that a little while ago Aguttes sold a Del Gesù violin, and the person that bought it ended up being David Garrett. So that was a bit of a weird auction. It didn't have many lots, and it was like a real mix of kind of really low level stuff, a couple of interesting things, and then the Del Gesù. So it was pretty bizarre really. But anyway, we're going to have a look at this auction. It looks like it might be pretty good. So 188 lots, going to take us a little while to get through it. I think we might have to look at most things, so let's see how it goes. Buyer's premium for this auction is 25%. I think it goes up a little bit higher with taxes, so maybe it's nearer 30, so bear that in mind. You have to add that onto the final hammer price. This is a French auction house, so if you're outside of France, bear in mind import, export fees, CITES restrictions, all of that kind of fun stuff. As always, I'll put a link in the description so you can check out the auction yourself. As I said, it's finishing on the 27th of November, so loads of time left to go. But I'm confident that this might actually be a good auction. So without further ado, let's just kind of crack on and see what's here. I might just zoom out a tiny bit so that we can get all the information here. So we've got a French violin by Charles Bailly here, Miracle 1924, 1500 to 1800 euros. There's the start. If there's anything super interesting, then I'll do the kind of the expansion thing, but I don't think we need to do that for every lot. But anyway, a kind of a good French violin there, 359 length of back. These are quite popular, these Charles Bailly violins, and I think they're pretty good as well. It's not my taste personally, but they are popular. We've got a French violin by Jean-Pierre Jamin, fait Chalon-sur-Saône in 1862. Okay, not a maker I'm familiar with really. 362 length of back. I completely destroyed that name for sure. 600 to 800 euros is the estimate here. Got a few kind of images here. Looks like it's got a kind of interesting back. I think we probably do benefit from having a look at these in widescreen, but I don't want to do that for every auction. Everything seems to have some Serge Boyer certificate thing with it. I don't know if that's just for the bows or if he is the expert for everything and giving certificates for things. In France, I think they've got different laws with certain levels of auction things where you have to kind of give or offer some kind of certification over a certain level. I can't remember the exact details, but there are other people that know a lot more about that than me. French violin, Miracle 1930. 1940 for Louis Courtier. Nothing too crazy here. Actually quite a nice back there. Might come up not so well on the kind of the screen because it's a bit small, but yeah, nothing crazy. 800 to 1000 euros. Interesting enough. 363 though, very long back. Again, the French, they love those long backs for some reason. French violin, it's a Thibodeau Lamy, like a kind of JTL there, with a Sarasate label. 358, that's not quite so long. 400 to 600, that's pretty standard stuff there. Right, German violin here, 20th century Guarnerius label. 300 to 500, yeah, that's your standard German trade violin. Not very exciting, to be honest. French violin, Miracle 1880 to 1900, 358 length of back. Once again, nothing too crazy. If we see loads of these, we might just have to start skipping them. German lionhead violin, late 19th century, 362. It's got a bow as well. Let's have a look at the lion and see what kind. Yeah, it's your standard trade lion, so we can ignore that. 400 to 500 euros. 800 to 1000 here in JTL. Your classic. This is the deep red kind of French one. Not a fan. Right, 1000 to 1500. Fine Harlequin violin. The head probably Italian. 358. Okay, right. Curious. Well, there you go. You could spend €1,500 or more maybe and potentially get a violin with an Italian head. Not that we can actually see the we can't actually see the image from the front of the scroll because they've cropped it off. Actually kind of interesting looking back there. Yeah, it's not too bad looking violin. We can see a side profile of the scroll, but why can we not see a front? If you're trying to sell the fact that it's possibly got an Italian head, why not actually show it? But anyway, sometimes the logic of auction houses does not really compute. Anyway, Miracle violin in the style of Moshar, 360 length back, 1000 to 1500. Once again, nothing too crazy there. Right, violin by Charles Rougier, 1927, 352. That's good length. Let's have a look at that. 5 to 7,000. I mean, a good maker, but not super exciting. 3 to 5,000. Violin by Jean-Nicolas Lambert, circa 1850 to 60. 3 to 5,000. 358. I think it needs a bit of work there. I kind of quite like these. I think they're pretty good. Let's just quickly zoom in a bit and see what's going on here. Yeah, it's kind of does need a bit of work to it. It's kind of got some charm, that violin, so I quite like that. 5 to 600. French violin by Maison Lebert, 20th century, 356. Sold with a warranty certificate. Yeah, another not so exciting violin. 3 to 400. French violin by Louis Mortissier, circa 1800. I don't mind this. I think it's kind of nice enough scroll from the side. 3 to 400, it's alright. Obviously needs a fair bit of work here. 362 though, it's a little bit long. 1000 to 1300. French violin, late 18th or early 19th century. Okay. Let's have a quick zoom in on this one. And quite nice back. That's quite interesting. Yeah, not against that either. 361 though, that's still quite long. 1000 to 1200. Another French violin. 359, 1870 to 1880. That's fairly standard. Another French violin. Well, we're going to get lots of those, I guess, in a French auction. 1000 to 1200. So far more interesting than the Vichy auction, though. Right, this is a bit different. Violin, 20th century, with an Alphonsius van Hoof label, 355. Includes a worthless study bow. Okay, well, just don't even mention it then. If it's like so worthless, just don't bother telling anyone that there's one there. Just chuck it in the box as a gift. There's absolutely no point to tell someone that it comes with a worthless bow. Maybe this is just translating in a funny way, but it's just pretty bizarre. Anyway, French violin Miracle under the supervision of Marc Lebert. It's getting a bit late. I'm getting a bit tired. 800 to 1000 there. French violin by Pierre Mansuy, Miracle, 19th century, 6 to 800, 358. Yeah, it's kind of curious. Right, a violin, 19th century there, 1200 to 1500. Some kind of Magini type thing, but maybe a little bit more interesting than your normal ones. 1200 to 1500 there. French violin, Circle of Grandjean or Le Combe, 1860, 1500 to 2000. These are usually, I've pressed the wrong button there. These are usually quite popular. Nice back on it as well. That will probably do well. 362 though, still a bit long. German violin by Johann Baptist Herbig, Bamberg, 1812. It's got a certificate from Maison Chardon and Fille from 1955. Well, needs a bit of work. Not super exciting to me. 2 to 3000. Right, a French violin by Auguste Deliver, well, Paris 1905 with a Rampol certificate there, so that's fine, you're sorted. Yeah, looks like your French violin with fancy figure, 5 to 7, 359 length the back, just about okay. French violin, miracle early 19th century, 1 to 1200, 1000 to 1200 even, yep. Right, German violin, pretty standard. I think we can just move past some of these, otherwise we'll never get through this auction. French violin 1900, once again, nothing too crazy. French violin again, 1870s, 1880s, these are all the same, 800 to 1000. Seems maybe a little bit optimistic, but you never know. French violin, Mircourt again. Oh well, that's a really nice back actually, to be fair. With Leon Mougenot Gauche label, 357, that's also okay. Yeah, okay. This isn't really my taste of violin either, although I do like kind of fancy backs, but some of this figure, I mean, that's actually quite nice. Like, I could work with that as a French violin. I think that is actually okay. Right, French violin, Mircourt, 18th century, 356, 6 to 800. Yeah, this is kind of quite a nice instrument. I actually have a violin not too dissimilar to this that I'll do a video on at some point. At least the back is kind of similar. Maybe the one that I have is a little bit nicer than that I think is probably French around that same period. So yeah, that's good. 6 to 800, I could go for that. A French violin by Henri Thuvenel, Mircourt, 19th century. Doing my best to get all of these names wrong. 800 to 1000 euros. Yeah, that's quite nice. It's definitely got potential there. Violin, French violin by Nicolas Mouchard, Mircourt, 1820 to 1830. Not really my thing there. German violin, late 19th, early 20th century. Nothing too exciting there. French violin, Mircourt, 1930s, 1500 to 1800. Another kind of fancy back there. Right, French violin, Circle of Nicolas Augustin Chapuis, Mircourt, 1782 to 3000 on this. This should be my kind of thing then. Yeah, it's okay. Not super excited by it. 360 length the back there. Right, violin by Albert Caressa, Paris 1926, 8 to 9000. So we're getting to kind of better levels of French stuff now. This one has one of these kind of whatever conservatoire things. It's got some kind of provenance to it, which I can't really be bothered to read, to be honest. But let's have a look at this. Yeah, conservatoire musique. That a lot of these French things have that. Actually quite a nice violin, nice varnish. I mean, like good respectable maker there. 8 to 9000 euros, 356, probably a nice violin to be fair. French violin circa 1780, 300 to 400. Iron mark of Nicolas Théu. Yeah, it's okay, a bit plain and a bit long. Violin mid 20th century. Carolus Badarello Turin label. Let's just have a look at that back a bit. Okay, we can move on. German or Eastern European violin, circa 1900. That's estimate is way too high in my opinion. German Harlequin violin, 19th century. Okay, that's a pretty unusual inlay there on the back. Okay, it's a bit odd. Quite a cool scroll though. I'd like to see a picture of that from the front, but no such luck in this auction. French violin, Mircourt, circa 1920. Yeah, it's pretty standard. Not even a scroll picture on that one. French violin by Jean Bauer, Angers, 1982. 3.5 to 4,000. Obviously a known maker. Once again, not my kind of thing. French violin by Amédée Dieudonné, vehicle 1930. These are usually popular as well, 2 to 2.5. French violin by Colin Mazar with documentation from Maison Colin Mazar, 2 to 2.5. This will sell, I'm sure, because these are always really popular. German violin, 19th century, 360 length the back. French violin, 19th century, 400 to 600. That's okay. French violin Circle of Derazy, Mircourt, 1870 to 1880. That's all standard stuff. French violin Francois Breton, 1780. Okay. German violin, 1900. Nothing too exciting there. French violin, late 19th century. That's pretty standard as well. French violin by Amédée Dieudonné with certificate of the maker. Okay, that's an interesting one. Bow as well, 2 to 2.5, so that could be okay. Violin, a probably French violin, circa 1880. 300 to 500 on that. German violin, 19th century. Okay, 359 length the back on that. Right, an exceptional violin by Émile Germain, Paris, 1888. 9 to 10,000 euros. Okay. Sold a certificate of Rample, 360 length the back. I guess we should probably do this one in a bit larger. Does look like a very nice violin, to be fair. Varnish looks pretty cool. Making looks nice. So I think that's a pretty decent one there. So maybe things are looking up for this auction because it was going a bit downhill. Right, a possibly Italian violin, late 19th century, 355, 2 to 2.5. Well, looks a bit more interesting than some of this French stuff that we've been seeing. So let's have a look. And that's an interesting button repair there, isn't it, in the back? Kind of cool scroll there. Does that have like a, it looks like it's got a, yeah, it does. It has a Baroque fingerboard on it. That's kind of bizarre. Oh, interesting looking violin actually. 2.5 would be one of those ones I'd quite like to see in person. Fine French violin, 18th century, Solomon label, 3 to 3.5. Let's see if it has any interesting marks on the scroll. It's a bit plain looking, but not too bad. 3 to 3.5 seems maybe a bit pricey. French violin by Joseph Aubry, Le Havre, 1937. 3 to 4. Nice back. Three-quarter size French viola by Prosper Cabassa, Mircourt, first half of the 19th century. That's interesting. 3/4 viola. It's 376. That is pretty small. French viola by Marius Richelme, Marseille, 1879. Wow, that is a interesting shape, isn't it? 3 to 3.5. 409 length the back. Another one of these kind of designs at the back. French viola by René Quinol, Paris, 1991. 6 to 7,000 on that. 406 length the back. It looks like a nice instrument. French viola by Frederic Boyer, Paris, 1980 to 85. 7 to 8,000 here. Three-quarter size French cello by Nicolas Chapuis, Mircore, 1771. Let's have a look at this. 2.5 to 3,000 on that. 397 length of back there. Nice kind of decoration on the back of the scroll there. Another three-quarter size French cello, Circle of Chapuis. Got a few of these going on then. Interesting. German cello by Werner August Theodor Voigt, Mark Nikirkin. 2.5 to 3. So I suspect we might get some bows soon, and then other instruments. Very beautiful French cello, Circle of Nicolas Antoine, 18th century. Okay, interesting. 6 to 8,000 there. Very fine cello by Marius Didier of Matincourt, 1934. 6 to 7,000 on that. That kind of dark red varnish again. A French cello by Émile Menesson, Reims, 1877. 8 to 10,000 on that. Ready to play, apparently. A fine French cello by Jean-Baptiste Salomon, Paris, 18th century, 10 to 12. Now we're kind of talking. This is getting a bit better. Let's see if we have any interesting marks on the scroll on this cello. Yep, here we go. We've got a flower, and it looks like we have a decoration, possibly looking a bit like a shell or a scroll at the bottom. Yep, here we go. Perfect. That's nice. A little mark at the back there. Yep, looks like quite a nice cello. Needs a bit of work, but quite nice. Some of the Solomon stuff that have little other marks up the side of the scroll, which can be quite nice. This one's a bit more plain, but yeah, nice instrument. I really do like the Solomon stuff. French silver mounted violin bow by Marc Lebert there. 600 to 1800. French silver mounted violin bow made by Victor Fetique, 1500 to 2.5. French silver mounted violin bow, stick by Emile Francois Houchard, the frog and button by Louis Morizon, 500 to 1500. French violin bow, the stick by Eugene Cugnot-Houry, circa 1900, 500 to 1000 there. Silver mounted violin bow, the fine stick made in a copy of Eugene Sartori, 5 to 700. Interesting French silver mounted violin bow, 19th century. That's quite an interesting head on it. Nice pins there, 500 to 1500. Seems like actually like a fair estimate. French violin bow by Louis Bazin, 500 to 1500. French silver mounted violin bow by Francois Lot, 1950, 1000 to 2000. French silver mounted violin bow made for Pierre Hell in the style of Charles Nicolas Bazin, 500 to 1500. A French silver mounted violin bow, the stick by Emile Francois Houchard, 500 to 1000 on that one. An interesting silver mounted violin bow in the style of Charles Nicolas Bazin, 500 to 1000 on that. A rare French silver mounted violin bow by Joseph Gaud, circa 1840. That's kind of curious head on that one. It's quite interesting. Let's look a little bit more into this. It's not really image quality is not so great. 4 to 6,000. Interesting. Good condition but jammed screw nut system. Okay, that's unfortunate. French nickel mounted violin bow by Louis Morizon Frère, 700 to 1400 there. A French silver mounted violin bow by Benoit Roland, Paris. Okay, this is a Paris Benoit Roland, so before he moved to the US. Interesting head. You can already see in the 90s here with this move to this kind of more kind of aggressive angles, 5 to 8,000. I mean, he's a quite respected maker, so it makes sense. French silver mounted violin bow by Bernard Houchard, 1975, 2.5 to 3.5 there. French silver mounted violin bow made by a student of Bernard Houchard, Mirko, circa 1975, 400 to 1400. French silver mounted violin bow by Marc Lebert there, 750 to 1750. Okay. French silver mounted violin bow, 500 to 1000. French silver mounted violin bow by a student of Bernard Houchard. Okay, interesting. 400 to 1400. A violin bow, French Kramer style stick, circa 1775. This is interesting. Yeah, that's a curious one. Frog in a modern copy. I was wondering, it didn't really look quite right. Interesting bow, 500 to 1,000 euros. I think that's a fair estimate. Yeah, very interesting bow. Okay, French silver mounted violin bow by Gilles Duhaut, Mirko, 1985, 750 to 1,500. French silver mounted violin bow by Gilles Duhaut again. Another one, same maker, a few bows in here. Right, we've got a German silver mounted violin bow by H.R. Frechner, 400 to 800 there, good maker. Silver mounted violin bow by a member of the Dodd family. Wow, 2 non-French bows in a row, that's quite impressive. A fine French silver mounted violin bow by André Richaume, 6 to 8,000 there. An excellent French silver mounted violin bow by Claude Thomasat. Yep, nice maker, 5 to 7.5 there. Right. A French silver mounted violin bow, the stick by Francois Nicolas Varin, the frog and button by Paul Emile Miquel. Certificate from Bernard Millant, who was one of the top experts. 5 to 7,500 the estimate there. Wow, a French silver mounted violin bow, the stick by Eugene Sartre, the frog and button made as a copy. So, as we always say, Sartre, very popular at the moment. 10 to 15,000 on that. Probably reflects that the frog is not original. French silver mounted violin bow by Joseph Alfred Lamy Père. Another one with the Bernard Millant certificate there, 7 to 9. An exceptional French silver mounted violin bow by Dominique Pecat, circa 1850. So one of the top makers here. 60 to 80,000. Quite a thing. Excellent condition. Let's actually have a look at the head. Really, really interesting head. Look at those, how nice those chamfers are. That is really is exceptional work, to be honest. So very interesting bow. Right, and now we're just back to an interesting French silver mounted viola bow by Francois Lot. 1,500 to 2,500, not quite the same level. French silver mounted viola bow by Jean-Claude Houchard there. French viola bow by Joseph Alfred Lamy Père. French silver mounted viola bow by Didier Claudel. Wonder how many. Getting ahead of myself there. French nickel mounted viola bow by Nicolas Maire. 1,000 to 2,500. Amoret wood, if that was Pernambuco, I think it'd be worth a bit more. So Amoret is basically snake wood, but like plain snake wood, so with less figure. French silver mounted viola bow by Christoph Schaefer. German silver mounted violin bow by H.R. Frechner there. French silver mounted viola bow by Louis Morzon Frère. French silver mounted cello bow by Jean-Claude Houchard. 1,000 to 2,000. French silver mounted cello bow by Jean-Claude Houchard. An excellent and rare French silver mounted cello bow by Bernard Houchard, 1975. French silver mounted cello bow by Houchard again. So a few of those here. And an interesting French gold-mounted cello bow by Jacques Ordonneau, Paris 2nd, 1980. Once again, this one quite aggressive, actually, in its head shape. Nickel-mounted French cello bow by Charles Nicolas Bazard there. An interesting silver-mounted cello bow made in the style of Louis Bazard. German silver-mounted cello bow by Hermann Richard Frechner. French silver-mounted cello bow, the stick by Hippolyte Camille Lamifie. Okay, quite a nice head on that, 5 to 7. Silver-mounted cello bow made in the copy of Eugene Sartori, 800 to 1800 there. Oh, we're into books here. Les Archers by Etienne Vatelot, obviously popular, 6 to 800 on that. Oh, and back to bows, a German nickel-mounted double bass bow by H.R. Frechner. Another bass bow there by Frechner. French silver-mounted double bass bow by Louis Mouzon Frère, 1970s. A French ivory and silver-mounted double bass bow by Louis Mouzon Frère, 1970. 2 to 3 on that. French silver-mounted double bass bow by Louis Mouzon. Right, a case here, fine antique wooden case from Maison H.C. Sylvestre, 400 to 500. I mean, it's one of those kind of better cases, like you sometimes get the old Hill ones, but I wouldn't personally pay that for it. Another antique case there, Maison Émile Germain. Another one here, not so nice, 20 to 30 on that. Fine double case from F.R. Kromholtz, early 20th century. Never heard of that case maker before, but it's an interesting looking double case, that. 800 to 900 euros. Another double case, that one not so nice. Another, oh, it's a bow case there, 3 to 400. Nice old bow case. Antique wooden bow case for 10 bows. Another bow case there. Some other instruments. A French violin by JTL, 19th century. In a bit of a state of disrepair. Actually quite a nice back on that one. That might be worth a good restoration. Fine 3/4 size French violin, Mirecourt, 1850. 3 to 500 on that. A French factory violin, Mirecourt, 20th century. I hope that this auction picks up a little bit. Another 3/4 factory violin. We really don't need to look at these. German factory violin. Okay, this is auction is not going in the direction that I hoped. A lot of 2 violins, 3/4 and a half size Mirecourt. I think we can just skip this, to be honest. French 3/4 violin. We're just going to go past now. French factory violin, yeah. Another 3/4 half size French factory violin. Another factory violin. 3/4. Another factory violin. Same again. A bow, German nickel mounted violin by H.R. Frechner there. A French violin bow, circa 1820. Wow, that's a really interesting head on that. That's quite nice. Bow, 2 to 400 with this kind of old style frog. That's quite nice. Another French bow, circa 1800. It's quite nice. Old bows, tropical wood. German silver mounted violin bow, 1960. French violin bow, school of Francois Percat, 100 to 200 there. A French nickel mounted violin bow, Marc Lebert Workshop. Study violin and a few bows. Fine French half-size violin by Charles Claudeau, Mirecourt, 18th century. Okay, 100 to 150. That's kind of curious to see a 18th century kind of half-size violin there. German school nickel mounted violin bow. French nickel mounted violin bow, Marc Lebert workshop, so I think we're really just getting towards the end there. Good German school silver mounted violin bow. Couple of bows here, 2 French silver mounted bows, 2 nickel mounted bows, German nickel mounted bow, possibly Paysold workshop, German silver mounted violin bow by Paul Weidhaus, nickel mounted violin viola bow in the style of J.J. Martin, French nickel mounted violin bow, Dabba workshop. A lot of 2 silver mounted violin bows. German school silver mounted cello bow. French 3/4 nickel mounted cello bow there. French 3/4 size nickel mounted cello bow of Francois Lot. German school nickel mounted cello bow. A lot of 7 cello bows there. 2 French silver mounted cello sticks. Okay. 3 bows here, 3 silver mounted cello bows. A lot comprising a bow case and 12 bows to restore. Okay, well, this could be an interesting speculative lot for someone potentially, or maybe not. Someone must have looked through that and thought, I can't be bothered to catalogue those. Alright, wow, a whole load of bows there. 1 bow signed PC, 4 German silver mounted bows, 1 bow signed Grandini, bows to restore. Okay, 4 to 800, nice bow case. Another one, loads of bows. Wow, so it's real speculative stuff there. Once again, loads of bows there. A gold including a gold mounted bow. Okay. I mean, you really can't tell from the pictures what's going on here, but yeah, maybe it's kind of potential there. A lot of 2 antique double bass bows in a Baroque style. Okay, yeah, with these interesting brass fittings. German style nickel mounted double bass bow. A lot of 2 French double bass bows. It'd be nice to finish off this auction with something interesting, but I don't think it's going to happen, to be honest. A lot of 13 antique Baroque and classical bows and an antique Baroque frog. Okay, 1500 to 3000. Could be a good opportunity for someone that likes historical bows to get some interesting items. There's some pretty cool frog designs in there, and pretty cool heads as well. So, yeah, interesting lot. French Baroque violin bow by Sylvie Masson in the style of Pierre Tort. Okay, a German Baroque style violin bow by Lothar Seifert. 50 to 100 euros, so that's not bad. German Baroque style violin bow by Lothar Seifert again. Another one, wow, we've got a whole collection here. Baroque style bow circa 1975. This is like a viol type bow. See those quite often. These are not very nice bows, to be honest. Baroque style bow there. Once again, yeah, one of these kind of viol type bows, not very nice. German school bow. I think we must be getting pretty close to the end. A plastic carbon bow by Bennigsen. Okay, and that's it. A French ivory mounted Amoret wood bow, 19th century, without pictures. So there you go. Right, well, that is the end of the auction. Must be honest, thought that this was going to be better than it actually was. Not the greatest auction either. A few kind of curious things here and there, to be honest. There are some interesting bits. Actually, some good bows. That's what I have to say. A few good bows in this auction, but otherwise nothing too great. But thanks a lot for watching and bearing with me. And I'll catch you next time. See you later. Bye.